least here trying to get get to the show. Okay, there it is.
There's that big old cat. He's prominent today.
Say hi to Mark.
He's going to reach over there and grab you by your arm.
Yes, he would. That probably would. He does. He does. Oh, there we are.
Well, we're here.
We're here. I don't know if anybody else is here.
Nobody else is, but we are. That's why I was wondering what was going on last night.
Well,
if there was some kind of a festivity that I'm unaware of beyond the opening night of the NFR.
Well, this was it last night,
which was good enough. What's Oop Shiners? Oh, Oop Shiners.
Well, Phil was over here, but I was trying to remember. That was night before last.
And that was the night before last. You said he was over there and you guys imbibed.
Well, yeah, we did. And I was trying to see how bad. I was thinking, was that last night or the night before last? It was the night that the rodeo wasn't on. Look.
There's Miss Diana from Canada.
Hi, Miss Diana from Canada.
Canada.
How is Canada today? And there's Mr. Mike.
Good morning, Mike.
Also from Canada. Got good news for you, Mike.
I gotta find my phone now.
Uh-oh.
I took a picture just for Mike.
Uh-oh. Mike, could it be Mike or Mark has got pictures of Bigfoot? I'll let him answer that, Diana. Guys, I'm gonna have to eat a bite in front of the camera. I can't help it. I got breakfast late.
My phone was off, so I gotta wait till it turns back on. Because technology is wonderful.
When it works.
I was gonna see if
Did you see what Diana asked?
You're darn tootin' I sent you the crappy weather. I kept enough just for myself.
Good morning, Miss Brenda.
I don't know if this will show up or not. That's either a moose or a yeti. I can't decide.
I told Mike he needed to get ready, but it might be something exciting.
Is that glare on?
That's the glare of your window back there shining. There you go. You blocked it now. Is that her a moose hump or is that a Bigfoot head?
I couldn't tell. It was in the deep willows, and
Mike says that's proof enough for him, basically. I don't know, Mike. That's not that great of a picture. I mean,
there is.
There you are.
Why do I have such a bad glare this morning?
Well, for some reason there is. Maybe it's because of the snow.
It's shining off my.
Is that
my cans of 17 caliber pellets over here or something?
Maybe. For some reason, there's a spot right here. You can't see my finger, but
right here.
There, yeah. It's more than normal.
Not so much here.
No, that part's good.
It hurts more right through here.
Right. Mike says if it stands up and walks on two legs, it's a Yeti. Well, maybe they feed down on all fours.
It spooked me out of the willows.
Ouch. Miss Carol.
I was fleeing and took a quick snapshot.
Hear that, Mike? Only two things Mark would flee from. A moose, 103 I can think of. A moose, a grizzly bear, or a Bigfoot.
Or a Yeti. Yep. Well, is that
well?
We never have decided whether Bigfoot and a Yeti.
I guess that's true. So I don't know, but the Yeti pictures I've seen, they're usually white. That looked dark to me.
Yeah, Yetis are adapted to snow.
That is good news, Mike.
We are not striking. Oh, that is good news. Yeah, what a wonderful time to strike.
Right, isn't it? Right around Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, Mike.
I have a cup with a Yeti picture right there on it.
No, that's a snowman.
I can't figure out how. There we go. There's the Yeti. In his Sunday best. What are you eating?
Hard steak biscuit.
Are you eating donuts?
No. And a sausage biscuit, but on the half shell.
Oh my God.
Half a biscuit.
You was going to say, I got me some steak biscuits on a half shell. 54% to 46. Uh-oh.
That's what I get for bragging.
Brenda, he's tipping over. Get down there. He sucked in a piece of sausage into his lung.
It did. At least it didn't have salsa all over it.
Well, go ahead and mute and cough that puppy out.
I think I got it, actually.
No, good.
54 said yes to the contract. 46 said no. That was still a little bit close, wasn't it, Mike? I mean, you weren't sure, but
it was really close.
Said they had some guys that were really mad.
And they will remain so.
Well, yeah, because there's 46% of them that's going to be pissed off anyway. Pardon me. Well, I was going to say, we don't know for sure here. Miss Carol may be with us. She's on her phone, if so, because she said that she may be. I just about did it again.
Well, quit.
No talking with food in your mouth. She's somewhere off. She said her camera was going to be in a waterproof case. And
what does that mean?
Well, I can't imagine that she's out
in the
river
rain
rafting or anything in the winter, so I don't know for sure. This group of individuals tried very hard to turn us over to strike. It was a good deal, so I spotted yes. Good for you, Mike. I mean, that's good, Mike. I'm glad they turned around. Well, at least enough of them turned around. 54% to win, a W in the column, that no matter what.
Yeah.
Or checking the W column, ever how they say that. Maybe in Canada they don't say that.
If you needed a D to pass and you got a D, then you win.
Then you passed. Yeah.
You won as well as the person with an A.
Hang on, man. I'm seeing if my boy wants out of the room. Yeah, hang on a minute. Let me crack the door for him. Hang on, Ted. I know. Yeah. I'm gonna get it. Did you wait too long? Did you about wait too long?
Hmm.
You know how little boys are. They start dancing around before they decide it's time to go to the bathroom. Tell me I'm wrong.
I waited right to the last minute.
Oh, mercy. I think Carol might be driving to a fun vacation spot. Oh, she said her, well, I don't know. Well, she may be, or she may be at a fun vacation spot. All I know is she said her phone, oh, let me turn my, she said her phone would be in a waterproof case so she could listen, but she wouldn't be able to talk. So I'm not sure. She may already be at a fun vacation.
She's not like on some black op in the rainforest or something, is she?
Well, it could be the Rainforest Cafe at Disney World.
Oh, there you go, eating again.
But I won't talk while I got my mouth full.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a balmy 16 here right now. So.
Oh boy, how about you, Diana?
Heat wave.
Sorry, guys, I'm eating again, but I was hungry. Yeah, that's right. Hello, Carol, if you're out there. She said she would like to be here to hear some of the topic today. So hopefully it'll be as interesting as she hoped it'd be.
Well, Mike says they got snow yesterday. Well, sometimes.
I don't know what she meant by that. Life sucks. Okay. Life sucks and then you die.
23 in Manitoba this morning.
I think it was.
Now, is that 23 American or 23 Canadian?
Got to be American, don't you think?
Well, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know either, but I mean, surely it's not 23 Canadian. How much? That would be pretty warm. I think 20 is 70. I think.
You guys are raining?
Yeah, it's been raining here. Oh, it's 47. Okay, that's what I was trying to look up. Yeah, it's been raining here all. I don't know when it started. It was raining a bit harder when I was first down there about 7:00.
It shouldn't rain at Christmas time.
No, it shouldn't. There should be a law against that.
-5 Canadian, 23 American.
-5 sure sounds colder.
So you guys aren't that much warmer than we are.
And yet you guys are further south.
Yeah, but we're way higher in elevation.
True.
So 7,000 feet is pretty high.
How high is your part of the country, Diane? Mike, you want to know what the altitude is there? 0? Probably up higher than that, but
I bet it's not very high. I bet it's 500 feet or less. It might be higher than that.
You know, I never thought about that. I wonder what what's the elevation of Lake Superior, Lake Michigan. I'm looking for something. Lake Superior, Lake Michigan.
But they're closer to Hudson.
Yeah, that's true. They are. I just got to wondering about it.
They're not very high.
The day before yesterday, we had green grass, and it was pretty decent outside in temperature. This time last year, we had like 6 feet of snow.
Yeah.
And you miss it, don't you, Mike? Tell me how much you miss it.
Yeah, I can't complain too much. We only have drifts that are, I don't know, the drifts in the West Pasture are maybe 2 feet tall. Last year they were 15 feet tall. So it's
Did you have any snow piles that didn't get melted down all the way?
no, and I was surprised by that because we had so much snow piled up, drifts and whatnot, that I thought it'd last all summer, which I've seen it do that here, but it got warm enough in the summer to make it all flood my basement. So,
I've told that story. I'm pretty sure about the Brenda. You might remember this. Mark might, but I'm not sure if he was there or not yet. But we had, I guess it was that big snow we had in that I've talked about before, but nobody else seems to remember but us. God, what year was that in? It was in the early 70s.
77, 78, somewhere in there.
It might have been 75. It might have been 74, 75. We had that winter that it was down 20 below zero, and we had a lot of snow. I mean, we had it for us anyway. It was a lot of snow, and everything was froze up. People couldn't, their water was all froze up. Jonesburg's water mains were frozen, so it didn't,
I bet that was 76, 77. We moved to Montana that year, and I was out of school. We were living in Ohio then. I was out of school for almost 2 months in a row.
Oh, she can't hear, but she can see us.
And then I moved to Montana and never had to make up that 2 months of school.
And you thought you had won a prize.
I was like walking in the tall cotton there, buddy. I probably shouldn't have said anything. They've probably been hunting me for all these years.
I bet they are. But what I was going to say was they had piled up snow from scraping up at. I wanted to say it was at the mall, but it might have been just at Sherwood Chevrolet. But somebody there had piled snow up, and they had this mountain of snow, and on top of it, they set a car. Then they did a contest for people to guess when the car would hit when the tires would touch the ground. And if you got it right, then you got, or the closest to it, then you got the car.
Nice.
You got the car, but do what?
I said nice. You didn't have a mall at that time, did you?
Yeah, yeah, we did. It was out near. Well, let's see. Back then, it would have been a Kmart. Do you remember where the Kmart was in Johnson City?
Yeah.
Well, it was near there. It is near there. I think that mall's still there. I don't know what's in it. Isn't that funny how malls kind of came in some places and then just over time they just sort of disappeared. People went back outside, I guess.
We've got one down in Rock Springs, and I bet it's half empty, maybe 3/4 empty.
Yeah, and maybe it's smaller towns or places that have that issue.
Mom, Dad's town has the same thing. They had these big mall buildings, or not big. I mean, not big for like a big city, but
yeah,
they're relatively large buildings with lots of office spaces and store spaces, and they're just dead.
Yeah. I've always thought a mall was a pretty cool idea because you got to be inside out of the weather. And if it was raining or storming, people can still go in and shop. They not like being outside and pouring rain. Maybe if you lived in England, pouring rain's okay because you were used to it raining all the time. But
plus, you could get them great big soft pretzels about that big
at the mall.
At the mall.
Yeah,
the only time I ever wanted to go to one was if I was craving a big hot pretzel.
Yeah, that's true, Brenda. We have two malls here. We have a West Town Mall and what used to be East Town, but it got later called something else. And that one in the East has all but folded up. They're always, I see them renting out space and stuff, but it's like that. Matter of fact, it may be completely empty. Hell, it may be gone.
And when you think about Brenda said the owners are charging too much rent. Seems to me like that's a pretty stupid idea. If you got people leaving,
yeah,
it'd be better to have them full up. But
you'd think so. They may have bulldozed it down now. Anyway.
That's what today's discussion about is the history of the mall. And with that note, I'm out. just temporarily.
There's Dean, the turkey legs. Hey, Dean. Oh, Mike, that's a shame. I've heard that too. I think the East Town Mall had a reputation for being dangerous. I never felt unsafe at those places, but I guess that's what they became. How's Dean today? If you're still here. That's also another thing. As the malls fold up, some stores have moved back in, to downtown areas, at least in some places, not everywhere, I guess. But so, what's the scarf? Is that your tartan? You're eating now. Talk and see if you suck stuff down your throat.
I'm eating leftover spatzel noodle.
Oh, who made that? You?
Me.
It turned out like grandma's, or wasn't it your grandmother's?
They're not as good. I'm missing something. They're good, but they're not that good.
That secret ingredient you didn't get from her.
She used to roll them out and make noodles, and mine are more like a dumpling, which is traditional, but they're not as good as hers. What was you asking? What my
I was saying you must not have got the secret ingredient to her recipe.
Yeah, something I missed. She put tomato juice on it in the boil when she made them, and so I do that too. But there's just something I'm not catching, but they're still good.
Mike and Diana both are saying that they've had similar things happen to their malls, and
their downtown's like dead. That's what
happened up in Johnson City too.
It seems to be what happens to every town that's got any size to it, which is too bad. Because town ought to stay in town and leave us country folks alone.
Yeah, that's right. Instead of just constantly spreading out.
Yeah.
You know, they could knock it down if they wanted to rebuild something, knock it down and build something else. But instead of just leaving them down there empty and
And some
abandoned.
towns have, gone through big renovation,
Yeah.
trying to revitalize the downtown and everything. And I don't know if it's worked or not anywhere, but
Yeah, I don't know what it is about people and businesses moving out. I had a discussion about that in college. I was trying to think what class that was in. It had something to do. I had a medieval studies class, I believe it was, and we talked about how in Europe the cities have all these old buildings and older buildings, but they're actually occupied because they kind of kept towns centralized and used their old buildings again or knocked them down. They didn't spread out like we do down here.
well, they don't have enough room to move out.
I think she's saying build something that would help people better. Yeah, they could probably do that. I mean, you'd think some of those places are sitting empty, they could do something like that. Mike says the owner of the Jets, who is a hockey team, has been buying lots of sections of our downtown and revitalizing. It's coming around. They're going to be buying this big mall right across from the Jets' home arena. Now, they'll be working on that and revitalizing it, and it's going to be something else. Hopefully it works out. Brenda was trying to say, help the homeless. Yeah, Mike, I could see him turning that into some kind of some businesses that would be attracted by the stadium. You think about how much, if it's really that close, I mean, think how much business you might get. Probably fill it full of restaurants or hotel rooms, because when big games are on and stuff, yeah, I bet they have trouble with seating. At least they do here. And when something like a football game is going on around here, you can't get a room for 20-mile radius of this place. Dan says,
Don't build out, build up.
yeah, I think so too.
We can't. Our tallest building in Wyoming is, I think it's 7 stories. It's at UW.
Well, you're already too high. That's why.
But there's a reason for that. When you have 100-mile-an-hour winds, you don't necessarily want to reach way up there into the sky.
Excellent point. Hey, Doug, welcome in, buddy.
I always love to hear them on the Weather Channel talking about, such and such wherever got 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds, and oh my God, we're all gonna die. And I'm like, shit, we have that every day.
Oh my God, we're gonna die. You ain't right, you know that, don't you?
13 Mike. Oh, how many more days? I got it. I thought he was talking in like military code or something. The 13 Mike.
Yeah, I think they're talking vacation mode or something.
They're talking how many more days are you wherever you're at.
Mike says we have skyscrapers that are not rented out. I always wonder what's going to happen. Well, that's a problem in New York too. They've talked about, I've read about that many times. In fact, that's always kind of been a problem. When they built when the Empire State Building was built, either Ken Burns or somebody did a documentary about skyscraper building. It's fascinating actually to watch them, all that old footage, watch them do it. But And most of those guys were Mohawks that worked at high steel. But anyway, they got the thing built, and he was rushing to get it built on time. There was bonuses and more money if you got it built on time and all that kind of stuff. And they did, and then I'm not sure it was ever completely rented out. To this day, I'm not sure it's ever been completely rented out. And then they built more skyscrapers all over the city. The rent that is an office space is so exorbitant, people can't make any overhead return. Are the skyscrapers that he who shall not be named that could be why it's not rented out? That's a good point, Mike. I get what you're saying there. He's saying that, or that guy's, maybe he owns them. Maybe that's why they're not rented out. Oh, he could probably make a special deal with his disciples and all their followers, and he could probably fill it up. But anyway, they took the name off some of those places. They had to get rid of them, which just broke my heart. Well, not really. What time is it? I wouldn't doubt it if he hasn't rented out to the Russians. Well, he did that. Well, supposedly he did. And I think it's probably the Saudis too. I think they have like a standing suite at the big Trump Tower where his offices were. Trump Plaza or whatever they called it. I can't believe I even know that much about it. Well, I'm going to bring up my show. I'm going to put it up here and get it ready. And that didn't work. Why did that not work? First time. There it is. First time in a long time. I hadn't got it right. So we're going to talk. I did manage to get this right. But I really started to make it on not just black cowboys and black pioneers, but just people that are different that have done things in the West. And one of them I think I'm going to save as a surprise, and I'm going to show it maybe next weekend. And I don't know if it'll surprise everybody or not, but it might. Yes, he does, Brenda. That's true too. Well, anyway, that's enough politics for one day. I can do it because he don't live down here. So we're going to talk about things. Oh, you know what? We'll talk about Bass Reeves. I forgot to put him on the thing, but I didn't. I got to go in a different direction, so I picked up a couple other things. But I'll have to talk about him. We'll talk about him some anyway. Super Teddy is checking out the Christmas tree. Oh boy! Hopefully he's not trying to climb it. We put our Christmas tree up, more or less. Yesterday? Yeah, I guess it was yesterday.
Is it a Charlie Brown tree?
No, it's a fake tree.
Oh.
And then after
that's way worse.
I know. When I was much younger, I swore I'd never own one, never have one. Then we moved in somewhere where we couldn't have live trees because of fire hazard. And I guess that's what happened. I guess that's when the spell got broke. But Teddy's just looking for some entertainment. Oh, so Mike, I take that to mean you don't think I entertain him enough. Thanks, Mike. I thought you were a buddy. Where's the donuts, by the way? Anyway, and the reason this came up was I got something in my email about Western.
No, pretty much because she's afraid Walter's going to eat them.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right about that. Oh my. Mike says, not what I meant, Tim. He saw an opportunity to have some fun with the tree. Okay. All right, Mike. That's okay. You can waffle right back out of it. That's fine. I got you. I caught you, though. I know what you mean, so I'm going to up my game here a little bit somehow. But not this week because I've already done it. So anyway, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Nobody ever leaves any comments, so I don't know exactly what that means, but you guys don't like anything I do, or
nobody can understand what the hell we're talking about.
Well, that could be too. Maybe. Well, it could be that there's really nobody here. Automatrons or whatever, just popping in and saying hi, and that kind of thing. So, Mary Fields, I have this. I get something on my email from, I think it's called The History of the West or something like that. I don't know if I could pull one up or not, but it's like almost like a little newspaper thing that comes out once in a while on on digital. And this week, I think one actually, I guess it was one day this week. I don't know if I was trying to think if I get them every day, but I don't think I do. But anyway, it was on, I believe it was December 5th. And that was they were given, I mean, this was out of Wyoming. She lived in, she ended up in Wyoming. Montana, excuse me. Anyway, I love this line from Gary Cooper. She was born in Tennessee in 1832, as far as I know.
Who is she?
Her name was Mary Fields, and I'm going to tell you who she was. And she was born a slave and then moved out west, eventually ended up in Montana, and there she became somebody pretty important. And probably nobody east of the Mississippi knows, maybe nobody outside the state of Montana knows her. But she probably did some stuff in Wyoming. I thought you'd appreciate that dog, that dog laying there on the ground.
I can't see nothing, buddy.
You can't.
You're not broadcasting.
Oh, heck. Wait a minute. I'm not presenting. Oh, let's start this all over again. Let me get up and come downstairs and, get Teddy and now.
Now I can see it.
Now.
And look at that beautiful border collie laying there.
That's why they had another picture of this was cut in half and you couldn't see the border collie. And I found this picture and I thought, well, hell, I need that one. Mark would appreciate that.
Look at that.
I also want to point out something else that's interesting.
That like stellar looking woman with a great big old border collie and a rifle.
What's cool, to me is cool about this rifle is that's a special model of Winchester that was actually built for the military.
Yeah, it's got a full stock that goes all the way.
Yeah. And if you look at the barrel, there's a barrel band about halfway back. And you can see it's got those spring-loaded release things that actually hold that band in place. A soldier could mash those in and slide that out, and you could take the stock off to clean underneath it and all that. And John Browning made these things. Well, he designed them for Winchester. And you can't, if you don't know the rifles, you probably wouldn't see this. But if you look, the receiver, which is that part where between her hand is forward a few inches, is longer than normal for a Winchester. And what it is John Browning designed a lever action rifle that you can move that the lever would go down, and actually part of the mechanism comes down with it to allow them to be able to shoot longer cartridges, military grade cartridges. And one of the reasons they did that was Russia during World War One. Now she's before World War One, or maybe even they may have done it even before. They'd tried this before with different countries. I'm surprised America didn't have them really. But when World War One rolled around, that rifle was or one similar to it at least, was very important. Rifles, military. What's the right word? Martial weapons, military grade weapons were running out of them literally in Europe because of two things. One, they were destroying so many on the battlefield, and two, they had so many men in arms that they ran out of rifles, basically. And they came over here, and we started making some of their rifles over here. The Mosin and the Gant, we were building those right here in U.S. of A. Remington, I believe they went to Winchester and then Remington stuff. Winchester said, "No, we can't do that. We got too much going on." And so they went to Remington, and Remington said, "Oh, hell yeah, we'll take the business." So they started build. A lot of these were built on license, of course, through Winchester. No, actually, some of these were built straight from John Browning. He went straight over there and sold some of these products later. But anyway, they were sold to be used by the Army, and they're pretty rare. I was really surprised to see it. Now, that's an earlier model than I'm talking about, I think.
Well, it's funny that you said that was Browning, because when you first opened up this document, and I got a little tiny picture. It's this big. I thought she had a Browning shotgun. I mean, it's if you squint your eyes just right, it just looks like an old Browning shotgun.
Well, it's a lever action, and I
see that now, but like when you first popped it up.
Anyway.
Well, that's cool that she was born a slave in Tennessee and became the freest soul to ever draw a breath.
Yeah.
Or a 38.
Or a 38. And that was by Gary Cooper, the actor. He was, I can't remember how he came to know of her.
Tina said that Remington's closing down their factory in New York and moving to Georgia.
Well, I don't doubt that.
I'm surprised they're not moving to Wyoming. That's where we have lots that have come here.
Well, Smith & Wesson just moved here.
Yeah, Weatherby moved to Wyoming 3 years ago now, I think, from California.
I'm surprised they lasted that long in California.
They were putting a hard squeeze on them.
Georgia has a bunch of places already, and around Atlanta, several companies are like, oh hell, I've got 3 or 4 other pistols. The company used to come out of Brazil. Taurus now builds a bunch of their stuff outside of Georgia, outside of Atlanta and Georgia. And there's a couple other manufacturers I can't remember at the moment, but I bet what she's talking about will be the same thing. They might be. I'm not sure where they're going. Oh, you mean, now they might not be in Atlanta, but that's where a lot of the other ones are going, because they're centralized to more freight movement and that kind of thing. It probably is Georgia. Well, I mean, I don't know. We can look it up, but
it's a politics deal.
Yeah, a lot of it. Well, and a tax deal, but
It was totally a politics deal for Weatherby.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
They were getting ready to make them like, oh, you make firearms, you're bad people.
Yeah, and California has some kind of crazy laws. Oop. Well, there went that stone. I hope it didn't turn it into a field tip as opposed to being a scraper. I got this in Wyoming. It fits my hand perfectly. Actually, it fits both ways. That way might be better. Got a thumb rest. Anyway, yeah, California's got they've gotten. I will say that they are. Well, part of me would love to live out there in some parts. Hey, train. That was about the clearest and loudest I've ever heard it on here.
There you go.
Sounds like it's right out here. Hey, John, there's Surf Bum John has joined us. A lot of it is politics. New York makes a pariah out of the gun owners and manufacturers. Yeah, California does too. And yet there's tons of stuff out there. People have got them. But they're, I'm telling you, there's parts of California. I'd love to live in Northern California. There's parts of California I'd love to see. But man, there's some funny laws out there.
So you remember the company that Captain Phillips worked for when he got captured by the Somalis?
Yeah.
Maersk. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of train cars going by the house right now that have Maersk on the side of them.
Where are they out of?
I don't know.
That sounds Scandinavian.
I think it's a foreign company. There's stacks and stacks of them, and now there's a bunch of those almost look like livestock cars, but I haven't seen that in a long time.
Might be automobile transports.
Could be.
So anyway, in the case of Mary, she was born in Tennessee. Actually, she was born in Pickett County, Tennessee. I found some more information about her. They still don't know what month. They are pretty sure about the years. Well, which isn't on there. I think I've got it somewhere. She was born in the
1832s.
Is it 32?
It's what it says on your slide.
Oh, does it? There it is. I thought I put it in there. Wow, I am having a bad day, folks. I apologize. No wonder everybody else didn't show up today. Or anybody. They realize they're all sitting back there saying, Tim ain't got a lick of sense. Well, 32. And she lived to be a fairly ripe old age. I got some things about her funeral here in a minute. Tina says, also, please. A lot of the politics, New York makes a pariah of gun owners and manufacturers. Also, please, TKE. I don't know what that means. Tina, can you explain that a little bit? So anyway, she actually left Tennessee and ended up in either Indiana or Illinois or maybe both. And she actually went to work I think that's where she first went to work for one of the Catholic churches or missionary schools maybe, and where she worked as a cook and did other things, and moved on up kind of then they moved. They asked her, I guess, if she'd go out west and do the same thing as she did, at least for a while. Also, want to please take the menu off of her face. Oh, well, sorry about that. I got it. I did finally take that, and just lived a big life out there and all. And if you can read this poster on the far right, and I'll talk about that in a minute. She says U.S. mail in Montana, and she was a major factor in that. She was also known as Stagecoach Mary. She was 6 feet tall and 200 pounds at age 60, and she was hired by the U.S. Postal Service as she was I love this. She was the fastest applicant to hitch a team of horses. I think that's great.
I would love to have met this gal.
Yeah. Said she never missed a day of work, and when the snow was too deep for her horses, she put on snowshoes and carried the mail on her back. And I read a little bit more about that. And she had to get one of the things she had to get to was a mission school, and another one was I don't know. There was another store there out there somewhere, but the fact that the mail always has to go. The mail arrives, rain, sleet, or snow.
So do you know where she was living?
I don't. Well, I think I do. Hang on a minute. I may not have it in here. Let me see if I've got notes on that one. No, I don't see them. That's the mission school.
So was it an Indian mission school?
I don't know. This one, I'm not sure. The one back east, I don't believe was. This one, where it was, I about bet it was. I love this thing that somebody put up together. It says, I'm Stagecoach Mary. I'm bold. I smoke a big black cigar. I drink whiskey. I carry a pistol. I love adventure, and I'm independent. Nobody tells me what to do. Nobody tells me where to go. You got a problem with that? I would like to think she would have said.
Look at some of the things they've written. Mary is a lady of color, the shade being that of ham.
Which one are you reading that in?
That Cascade is joyful on Mary's birthday.
Well, is there a Cascade, Montana?
Maybe.
Because I think that's one of the places she lived there.
It's out of Great Falls, outside.
Okay, well, that's pretty far up too.
So she was east of the Divide, which is the deep snow part of, or it's the deep cold, snowy part of Montana.
Yeah.
Tina. The Wyoming part of Montana.
Hey, John. John says, heck, today, 6 inches of snow, no delivery because of safety and OSHA standards. John, if you don't mind me saying so, John retired from the Postal Service, so he might, I don't know if he's ever heard of this gal or not, but out west, she was a big deal. Well, I thought I had a little bit more information about her. Well, actually, I do.
There's all kind of info right there in those articles.
Well, there is. If you want to read them, I was trying to pick up on that. Mary Fields has become the Cascade to Cascade what the Cradle of Liberty was to Philadelphia. I don't know how they pronounce
that.
People
Faneuil Hall.
Do what?
All the people going to her funeral.
Yeah, it was one of the most heaviest attended funerals at that time at Montana had ever had. And there were quite a lot of people there, and it lasted a little while, if I'm not mistaken. The funeral was one of the largest ever held, at least in Cascade. I had a picture. I thought of them carrying her coffin. Hang on just a minute. I've got some more info on her. And I might be able to tell you where all she lived. That's where I said Pickett County, Tennessee. That's wrong. I apologize. It was Hickman County, Tennessee. Anyway, let's see here. Mother Amadeus was sent to Montana. Yeah, she was teaching Native American girls, Mark. St. Peter's Mission west of Cascade. Learning that Amadeus was stricken with pneumonia, Fields actually left her place and went to Montana to nurse her back to health, and then she never left Montana. Amadeus recovered. Fields stayed at St. Peter's. Fields took on multiple roles regarded as men's work at the time, so she was a real trendsetter in that regard. She drove wagons, fetched supplies, did laundry, gardening, hauling freight, growing vegetables, tending chickens, repairing buildings, and eventually became a forewoman, the forewoman. So she was kind of running the place physically. Native Americans called her White
Cascade is
Crow.
right on the Missouri.
The Native Americans up in that region, which probably would have been what, Mark, Crows and Blackfeet?
Blackfeet.
They called her White Crow because she acts like a white person but has a black skin. That's okay. That makes sense. Life in a convent was placid, but Phil's hearty temperament and habitual profanity made the religious community uncomfortable. I bet it did. In 1894, after a lot of complaints, I guess it says a disgruntled male subordinate. In other words, they made the lowest guy on the totem pole do this. That involved gunplay. I guess they sent him, uncomfortable male. That involved gun. They sent him to tell her she had to leave. And the bishop barred her from the convent after that. She moved to Cascade, where she opened up a tavern, but profits waned due to allowing the cash poor to dine free. That's nice of her, though. It closed due to bankruptcy. Then she got the postal service contract, and I think she held that for quite some time. She was the first African American woman to work for the U.S. Postal Service, John. Thieves and bandits driving the route with horses and a mule team and a mule named Moses. Oh, that's what she was doing. And she was famous for carrying a 38 Smith & Wesson, which was probably a break open, like a Schofield kind of a thing. You know what that looks like. Carried it under the apron to protect herself. It says something about she carried slacks over her shoulders while wearing snowshoes in the snow if it was too deep to take her wagon. That's interesting. 60 years. At 60 years old in 1895 is when she got a job as a star route carrier, which used a stagecoach to deliver mail. And the unforgiving weather and rocky terrain in Montana, with the help of nearby Ursuline nuns, that's the group she worked for, I think, or with. And they relied on her to help keep their mission going. This made her the first African American where I said that true to her fearless demeanor, she carried multiple arms, including her 38, and that's where she got her stagecoach Mary name, obviously. Looks like she spent most of her life in Cascade after she got out there. She died in 1914 at Columbus Hospital in Great Falls. Damn, that's cold country up there too. I can remember when Great Falls used to be the place they would name on the weather channels as the coldest place. The coldest place in America today is Great Falls, Montana, at minus 400 degrees. One of the largest funerals I ever had there. So she was pretty well liked and respected, and she for somebody who made such an impact out there, I'd never heard of her. Just another forgotten person who did a lot of things and could have been a real cowboy movie herself, or not a cowboy movie, but certainly a Western of a different sort. And we never heard of her, and probably because she's black, or at least partially, maybe largely. But I thought it'd be good to talk about her. I mean, because she just did a lot of things. The next guy I wanted to talk about, I think maybe mentioned him in passing a few months ago, and that's George McJunkin. And George is famous for something that is near and dear to Mark's heart. And I just have a couple of pictures of him while he was working and doing different things. But he was a regular. He basically was out there doing cowboy work. I mean, I've read there were about, I think nearly a third of all what they would have called real cowboys were black cowboys. People don't realize that, I don't think, because the movies never showed black cowboys. They just always showed the white guys and Roy Rogers and those guys. And I don't know. The first time I remember seeing a black cowboy was Sammy Davis Jr., and he played a part in a Wild Wild West episode. And I remember it because of some stunts that Robert Conrad did in that show. That I liked that show back then, so I remember saying that. But anyway, this guy did a lot of things that all the other cowboy movies and whatnot just ignored. But that lower picture is him and some of his buddies. They were working cattle, and somebody took this picture of him eating under a tree. And the top one to me looks kind of staged, but it's a good picture of him. Looks like he's riding a big gelding, probably.
That was up at the site. That photo was taken at the Folsom site.
Oh yeah, probably was. And then there was, I thought this was kind of funny. That somebody wrote like they made that book I just showed you had, I think that was more of a cartoon type book than it was photos and just textbook. But this is, kind of like his life's history there. And what he did as a cowboy, a black man. He was born into slavery. He was also born into slavery, and on a Texas ranch. In his case, he was born in Texas. After the Civil War, he headed west, which I thought was fun. He's already is west for most of it. And it says, "Tell my father I'm going to be a cowboy and look for school." And he did. He educated himself after. He didn't know how to read, but he did speak Spanish and a couple of other things, and turned out made him real handy to some of these archaeologists and things that were down in that part of the country working, and probably hiring Mexicans and Spanish speaking people to help them do their work, just like today. And he got interested himself in anthropology, and eventually he found a site that had some really unusual bones in it. Mark probably knows more detail than I do, but he turned that he kept trying to turn it over and get somebody interested in it. And it's a shame because they didn't really develop it until after his death, which is something I didn't realize. I thought it was, he was an old man, but I thought they finally did it. But I got a little article about that too coming up. But they just didn't think a black man at that time would know anything about archaeology, and they just figured he was goofing with them and didn't, it wasn't real. Turned out that they were an extinct genotype, or I guess that'd be correct, of bison that died out during the Ice Age or after the Ice Age, whichever way you want to look at it. And you'd think if they'd made it all the way through that, they could have made it. They could have made it through the next period, but they didn't. And so that was a big find in and of itself. But then the really big find happened, and that is around the site here where that cave banked in, or Bank caved in. Golly damn, I need to start over today. And this picture down here has more to do with, the site too. I think this might be, I don't know, Mark, you think that's his? Does that look like New Mexico where Folsom is? I don't know if it does or not, but I think this read that this was, was riding back in with a group of folks he had out at the dig site, and he's in front of his house, which I have a picture of here in a minute, I think. And this is his pile of bones. This was sorry. Sorry, hang on a minute. Come on, coffee, do your thing.
So back up one slide.
Back up one slide,
Can
okay.
You hear me?
I can't.
I've been saying stuff.
Oh, well, I wasn't hearing you then. Are you talking now? Okay.
I'm just letting you.
Letting me cough up a lung here. I'm
get
your Huckleberry.
Get that piece of darn sausage out of your.
Well, you know how it is when it goes down your windpipe. It's hard.
Yeah.
I always thought Mama told me not to eat my mouth full because she thought it looked bad and it was uncouth. And maybe all along it was to keep me from sucking crap down my windpipe. And I didn't learn, and I've been doing it all my life.
I've been seeing you do this most of my life.
You've seen me do it too many times.
Sometimes there's bad stuff too.
Yeah, sometimes it was.
So that picture on I don't know what side it'd be. On my screen, it's the upper left.
Yeah, should be right.
Where he's standing there in that wash. They had a big flood, and all that drainage, that's right there at Folsom, and all that drainage had caved in, and it exposed all those bison antiquus bones.
Hang on just a minute. Well, Mike, I hate to hear that, buddy, but go take care of business. And you guys need to work on that because you live in the land of the Great White North. Not being able to drive in the snow should not be acceptable in Canada. You shouldn't even be able to live up there if you can't drive in the snow. I mean, that's that's horrible. John said, heck, today 6 inches of snow. No, okay, that's the snow thing. I already read that. Be safe, Mike, if you can still hear us. Okay, now go ahead, Mark.
So anyway, that's the site where he found all those bones.
Yeah, and it was just an accident. I mean,
and like I said, there was a flood and it blew that wash open. That hadn't formerly been a wash. And it blew all that open, and he found bison bones, and he was like, well, these are a lot bigger than bison. And it's a totally different species of bison antiquus. So they're a lot bigger than bison, the one we have today. And he thought it was pretty cool, and he contacted Denver. I don't know why Denver. Are you going to fall over on me there?
No, I'm sorry. I'm stretching my leg a little bit. My glute muscles are wadding up.
During his lifetime, that photo at the bottom right might be, I can't remember if people actually showed up to look at it or not while he was still alive.
Well, that's a good point.
He had reported the site to the appropriate people, I think.
They didn't take him seriously.
And they're like, it's just another site. And in those days, it was that was back in the day when like there were discoveries being made all over the place. And it's interesting because this site led them to find the Clovis site later on as well.
Which was such a big deal.
Yeah. And but I mean, this was a pretty big deal.
I've got that next. John, just let me warn you, buddy, don't talk while you're eating it, okay? Because I've got a feeling that biscuits have more to do with my choking than the sausage. Just a thought. You'd think people who grew up where there's snow on the ground half the year would remember how to drive in it after such a short time. Yeah, you would, but apparently not. Diana's probably right. If they had rain beneath the snow, then it probably is very slippery. But you need to slow down and do things like that, and not run into knock buildings over and stuff. Anyway, ready for me to slide to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
And that's a demonstration of what they found, basically.
So that was the first one of those ever found that at least scientifically described. That's the Folsom Point. And it proved before this was found, they thought Native Americans had been in North America maybe for 2,000 or 3,000 years.
Yeah.
And they find this extinct bison that's 11,000 years old.
And lo and behold, look what.
And stone points sticking in its rib cages.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, maybe humans have been over here longer than we thought.
And had they found Clovis points anywhere else in the world at this time?
No.
So this was the first Clovis point, right?
That's not a Clovis. That's a Folsom Point.
Oh, I meant Folsom. Excuse me.
They'd never been found and scientifically described. There might have been a dozen kids out there packing them around their pockets, but they'd never been described. So they find this site, and it's like, oh well, we're pushing the human occupation of the Americas back from 2,000 or 3,000 years to 11,000 years. And then they find the Clovis site, which pushed them back to 15,000 years. And, on and on. We keep every year they keep finding stuff that's like older and older and older. So
wow. That's pretty amazing.
But this gentleman like recognized that the creatures he was finding, he didn't find the points. They found those after he was gone. But he had recognized that this animal was like not the ones we have today. They were so much larger.
And that's I guess it was obvious to somebody who'd probably, I was trying to remember if he'd had a job butchering buffalo, but I can't remember if he did, hiding buffalo.
Maybe he did. I think he did that on his way to New Mexico.
I think he might have driven like a hide wagon where they loaded them up and carried them back and forth to whatever they did with them.
And these things were like 25% larger than a modern bison.
So it would have been obvious.
It was like, holy buckets, look at the size of these things.
Pretty cool.
And they were fossils, basically. I mean, semi-fossilized.
Damn, pardon me, but damn it. Yeah, so it was a pretty big deal. Discovery.
And Mr. McJunkin was born a slave, went into the buffalo hunting business for a little while, not a very long time because it didn't last very long.
Right.
Went to be a cowboy and ended up being the foreman on that ranch. And he educated himself, or got himself educated. I think it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, he did. Because he knew he needed to have some education. And he actually became a ranch manager at Folsom, New Mexico after the big flood, which pretty much washed away the whole town, not just that arroyo.
And Tina's like, so what you're saying is that scientists back then changed and revised. Who'd have thunk it? Yep, they did indeed. But it was fought for a long time. It was like,
yeah.
And it's still going on today. So there are people out there that think Clovis people were the first people here 15,000, 13,000 years ago. And they're finding older and older and older stuff underneath the Clovis layers. And they're just fighting that tooth and nail. It's crazy. It's like, no, there's no way that stuff got underneath the Clovis layer without it being older.
And that's a fight that's going on all over probably the world, but from both ends.
The Earth's flat anyway.
Do what?
The Earth is flat anyway.
Well, true.
It's just like a big sheet of paper.
I'd rather think of a pancake, because a pancake is
big old piece of plywood.
Yeah, there we go, big old piece of plywood. What was I getting ready to say? Oh, and that battle's going on from the East Coast of the United States to the West Coast. I mean, there's all kinds of things popping up and being dug up on the East Coast that proves that Columbus was nowhere near the first European to come to the New World, if you will. But
and you've got me watching that daggone island thing. And I watched a few of those early on. And I'm like, oh, this is a joke.
Yeah, but it turned into something
now
really
they've
cool.
found so many cool things on that island. I'm like, God dang that! Maybe there's something to this.
Yeah, I thought that was the same way I went. I saw it early on. And I thought, nah, there's nothing. And I didn't watch it anymore. And then one day I don't know. I turned it on couple of seasons back, and I got hooked on it because they
have found some pretty darn cool stuff on that island.
Yes, they have. I don't care if they ever find a big pile of gold. I want them to find some other stuff, because they're finding things that are dating back to the.
Well, you keep finding Roman coins and things like that, like at depth in that ground. Right. It's like, there's been folks visiting that spot for a long time.
Yeah, sure have.
And I think like Skinwalker Ranch is a crock.
Yeah, I don't have any use for that.
But you've like convinced me that I might need to watch that other thing more.
Well, good. I think it's where I'm excited about it, because, like I said, I don't care if they find gold, if they find more history uncovered there. And that's what this was kind of like. As you were saying, the further they dig here, they're finding more and more stuff. But what I was going to say about that, and they'll run into the same thing at Oak Island, is that there is so much resistance in academia to resist changing all that history.
Yeah.
That they don't want to even talk to people about it. It's just like that Kensington runestone that some people think's a fake and some people say is real. And, nobody wants to get in there. They want you go to the universities and things that would need to, get on board with that. And they won't even talk about it, because they don't want to talk about anything that happened before Columbus. They want to stick to the Columbus story, period. And
so there's a Clovis site, famous Clovis site in Central Texas, down off the Edwards Plateau called the Galt site.
Yeah.
And they did good archaeology and dated everything, had good dates, and pushed, had like probably 13,200 years ago or so, the Clovis people were living there. And then somebody was like, you know what, I'm going to dig down like a few feet deeper. And they found a whole nother culture, at least stonework wise, under that. Beautiful points and things made that weren't nothing to do with Clovis.
Huh.
And weren't
false either.
And they were 2,000 or 3,000 years older than Clovis. No, they weren't. Well, Folsom came after Clovis.
Oh, okay.
It's about 11,000 years, and like I said, Clovis is about 13. I think they say it didn't last that long, actually, a couple hundred years, 400 years maybe. And but then they found this whole other culture underneath of that, pretty deep underneath of that, and they're like, now what do we do? And of course, everybody wants to fight over, and it's like, look, it's obvious they were here a long time before Clovis.
Well, and what's kind of funny about that, it's not, in a lot of these cases, it's not the people who discovered it before fighting the people who are discovering new things now, because they're all gone. It's people that have read their doctrine and gone to work, believing the same things they did.
Yeah.
Or what they learned, and that's become concrete, and now they're finding new stuff. And it's a constant change, and that's what's cool about this planet and learning about it's just like nature.
They got that Monte Verde site down in South America, clear down at the south end of South America, that some people think is 28,000 years old. And it's got it's got dead elephants parts, gomphotheres, I think, and human footprints that are basically have become stone. They're and all their like dwellings and things. They found the post molds for all their homes, and it's like we just have to keep an open mind about it. You don't have to get silly, but if you're getting good dates off of stuff, humans were probably here a lot longer than we think.
Probably. Yeah, we got to be careful, because there's always that a-hole out there that wants to fake stuff and figures he can make a profit on it. It's just like Pendleton Man, or not Pendleton Man, Pelton Man, was that his name? I can't remember what that skeleton they found somewhere, I think in England, and they said, oh, this might be the first human, or they thought he was the missing link, and for several years people believed it, and then they finally found out those guys faked the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
but these sites have been like researched decades now, and they're the real deal.
That's right. So anyway, George
McGuckin. Look at that beautiful stonework, and the failure rate on making that point right there is like 75%. So why did they do that? Why did they try that big flute that's down the center of that point, which is a longer flute than on a Clovis point?
Yeah, it just goes.
Why did those people think that was important? And like I said, they got lots of living sites where they were making these points. And why would you? And the stone that they used, they had packed for in some cases 1,000 miles, because it was the good stone. Why would you risk that piece of rock and making that point? Because let me tell you, they're a pain in the butt to make.
Is that harder to make than a Folsom point or a Clovis point? Because a Clovis only goes
Clovis
halfway,
points, the flutes are a lot shorter, so they're easier to make.
so you don't have to do as much, basically.
But they're kind of tricksy too. But this particular point is very tricky. And then there's a point from your part of the world that's called a Cumberland point. That's a long fluted point. That's even probably more tricky, more technical to build. And they've come up with all kind of ideas of how they manufactured these things, but the failure rate was enormous.
Yeah, that's the thing. They went to the style of arrowhead that was here when Europeans got here, and they may have done that not so much because it was better, but because it was so much quicker. I mean, who knows?
And it didn't take the skill level.
And didn't take the skill level, exactly. Who knows? Maybe this thing flew better. Maybe it penetrated better. Maybe it did a better job.
Don't know. It's like
you said,
there were
so
tons
high.
of other types of points at the same time. There's a point called a Midland point. There's some others, Goshen points, that were made at the same time that are similar in shape, but don't have that flue. And guys I've talked to and books I've read about the subject is that they were equally effective at killing bison, but these people were still making these things. And why it was, there's no clear reason why they made these really technically difficult points. It might have been a religious thing. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. I can't remember where I was reading about these things, and they were describing a guy sitting there making points. It's probably Tony Hillerman book. I don't know. Tina, I think so. I don't know how many exactly, but they have worked that back to where I can't. I read something about this not very long ago, and or maybe saw it on television, but they were discussing the so-called missing link and whether there actually is one, because they've gotten some skeletal remains of humanoids or Homo sapien, Homo something or others that may have already filled in that gap. So, but they're not sure. That's going to be tricksy too till they finally figure that out. But they're getting there. But it's kind of like these artifacts. Who knows how deep you got to dig to find that answer? And, can you get money to do that, or can you have people to do that? Can you afford to pay somebody to help you do that? Well, I was waiting to see if he was going to pop back in, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is a little bit more about George. This is the interior of his house, the living room. If maybe the only room, I don't know, but they described it as the living room. And I'm not even sure his house, cabin, whatever, still remains. These are photos of it. I know there's been some restoration work done there in Texas. I think he was in Texas. I can't remember that.
New Mexico.
New Mexico, excuse me. I was thinking, I couldn't remember if he moved after that. But anyway, New Mexico, because he lived pretty much in Folsom after he moved out. Once he got there, he stayed. And he called it the XYZ Ranch. And that's the living room for the XYZ. I'd like to see that brand. Anyway, and here's his tombstone, 1856 to 1922. So what's that? 44 plus 22, 68, 66 years old, which is he led hard working kind of life, so that may not be that bad, really. Let me pull up a little bit of information about this one I've got here. I think I've still got it. If I can find it. Because there's something unique about his. Here it is. There's something unique about his funeral, too, I think. And the arrowhead I might mention was found after he passed away, so he didn't get to reap any of that reward, if you will. They did make sure he got credit though, and I was pretty sure there was something about that in here, but maybe not.
Yeah, the professor that finally came down and dug the site made sure that everybody knew that this gentleman had made the discovery.
Yeah.
He didn't take credit for it. He said, "I'm here on the advice of the former, foreman of that ranch," and named who it was.
Yeah. So then I was moving on. I was trying to find I decided to stay on this main topic of folks of color. And so I thought, well, I need to mention the Buffalo Soldiers because just about everybody's heard of the Buffalo Soldiers. You may or may not know all their history, though. And, before 1866, well, no, that's not entirely true. During the Civil War, the South and the North basically made a deal. I've never figured that out, but a pact that neither one of them would recruit or allow to be recruited black soldiers. They didn't. I don't know why the South. I mean, I know why the South didn't want them to have weapons, but I don't know about why the North didn't. But then eventually Abraham Lincoln or his generals or somebody said, "Look, these guys want to fight. We need them." Yes, sir. What's the matter? You want to talk about cat fights? Well, the cats didn't fight in this, okay?
What he wants to do is grab you by the arm.
Is that what you want to do? You want to grab me by the arm and tear his shirt? He said, pull his shirt sleeve down. Because that's what I do. I'm a teddy, and that's what teddies do.
And hug him and squeeze him and call him George.
You want to be called George?
Not you. He's saying that about you, not him.
Oh, okay.
He wants to hug you and squeeze you and call you George.
And bite your arm.
And bite your arm. And rub your feathers the wrong way, George.
Yeah.
You've been a bad boy, George. Rabbits don't have feathers.
That's all something.
They're probably going to ban us again. We're talking Looney Tunes.
I saw another good one the other day. It was Looney Tunes. It was like that. I can't remember now. I had it in my head on the tip of my tongue, but it's gone. Okay. Anyway, but finally the Union did start using black soldiers, and the Confederacy had some, although it's often from what I've read, it was mostly on dubious circumstances, but they did allow some to fight. They didn't want to arm them, and they didn't want to promise them freedom, so it was kind of hard for them to let them fight. But in the end, they did get to. You're pulling on my arm now, aren't you? You can stop that.
Oh, buddy.
And you can't make biscuits on my hand either. So in 1866, after the war was over, Congress decided to establish 6 all-black regiments, and then they ended up turning that to 4: 2 cavalry and 2 infantry, to help rebuild the country after the Civil War and to fight on the western frontier during the Plains War. So I suspect the ones they kept back east, if if they had any at that time. I'd say the ones in the east probably got to build roads and dig and shovel and do that kind of stuff. I don't know. So I'm sure riding horseback through the desert would have been much more fun. And supposedly the Plains Indians were the first ones that referred to them as the buffalo soldiers. Now I wonder, is Tina in here? Because this is. Hey Dave, welcome in. Adventures by D is here. Buddy, Tina might be the one to know this, but shoot, I lost my train of thought.
Buffalo soldiers.
I know, but I was getting ready to say something about
first referred to them as Buffalo soldiers, and Tina might know this.
Yeah, that's why I forgot. It just blew right outside of my head there. I'm curious. Do you see it when it leaves, or is it just invisible?
It's just like it's a fog that just like shoots out.
Okay, that's what I thought. I suspected that. Damn it! Let me reread that a minute. Anyway, it went on to say American Plains Indians named them Buffalo Soldiers, and they basically say that was because of their dark curly hair, which resembled a buffalo coat. Which it kind of, I mean, I could see that, and their fierce nature for fighting. And that's another thing. They really had a reputation for fighting hard in the Civil War when they formed the units. Those guys fought hard and died in droves, really. When they sent them to attack, is it Fort Monroe? There was a whole bunch of naval forts or anti-shipping or excuse me.
There were, John.
What'd John say? I think there
were Buffalo soldiers that.
Yes, there were. Yeah, there were. They didn't all ride. They didn't all go out west.
Was late. They came up there late. They didn't. Yeah. They didn't really get into much action on the northern plains like the other troops had done. They were mostly in the south, in Apache country.
Now say that again.
I said they didn't get into a lot of action in the northern plains with the Plains Indians. They mostly fought in the southern plains and in the desert.
Yeah.
And did most of the fighting there.
Damn it, I still can't remember what I was going to say. Had something to do with what they did. Okay. Anyway, so that nickname kind of stuck once it got going. And like I said, they formed 6 and then cut those down to 4, 2 cavalry units and 2 infantry units. And another thing they did, and I don't know if I've got this written down, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it, was as things settled down out west and the Indian Wars started to cool off, Buffalo soldiers were the first people to be posted as security guards and the first people to operate the campgrounds and things for the National Park Service. These guys they were in charge of that all over the West up until a certain point when when the Interior Department took over and changed all that. But I had read that somewhere before, and I read it again this morning, and I'm sure I could find it, but I don't have it pulled up right now.
Well,
and this was what?
I don't know how far you carry these guys, but they were with Teddy.
Yeah. I've got something about that here in a minute, I think. I thought this was interesting too. These coats, and See, I had some notes on this, and I don't know why they're not showing. My notes aren't showing up. I thought they were on the bottom of the slides. But apparently they are not.
That's cool.
Which?
What John just said, that the attic in his barracks had knife engraving from soldiers back in the 1800s.
That is cool.
At Fort D.A. Russell.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Well, I'm not seeing that. That's what I was looking for. Again, I'll forget it before I find it. So, anyway, well, I was looking for this article about the buffalo coats. That's what I was looking for. The U.S. military thought about making and buying these heavy wool or heavy buffalo skin coats for my understanding was the whole army. And it turned out that was just going to be too much and too expensive. And they're pretty bulky and heavy and things like that they decided not to. But I guess they had a large enough supply that they decided that, at least if the Buffalo soldiers wanted them, since they were working outside a lot and on the plains, and some of them were in the north, that they would, they could use them if they wanted to. So a lot of those guys did get them, and they did use them. I suspect that a lot of that was cavalry units. Maybe the infantry units didn't take them because they would have had to carry the darn things around on their back. They'd much rather had it on a horse's back. Are you eating chips that I can't see?
Me?
Yeah. I just heard a rustling.
I'm just sitting here.
I still can't find that picture. And I thought I attached that to the bottom of this page. I hope the rest of my notes.
Might be hearing my dog drinking water, maybe.
I hope my the rest of my slides have the language stuff on them. And I flipped it with my finger. And the soldiers, the 4 regiments or units that they made were the 9th and the 10th Cavalry and the 24th and the 25th Infantry Divisions. So that's what they came up with. And, the 25th Infantry were started in the West to build roads, service park rangers, and to fight. So they did still expect them to do that. So, and some of them were the Buffalo Robes. I've got that. Buffalo soldiers of the 25th Infantry, Fort Keogh, Montana. And that's out of the Library of Congress. Now, here I think I've got some of that information, Mark. These two gentlemen, this one gentleman, was the 3rd black graduate of West Point in the 19th century. So, in other words, before 1800, I thought then some of these are just really cool pictures of different things. Did I skip that one? No, I didn't. I got that one. But here you can read about Charles Young, and he was, like I said, he was only the third black American to ever go through West Point.
You've jumped slides, dude. We could read it.
Well, that's what I thought I did. And I was trying to figure that out.
I've got like the slide over top of a slide now.
Really? Oh no! Yeah. Oh wow! Where? Yes, I did jump. How did that happen? Now I was there, and then I wanted to go here. Okay.
And you were there, and then that other thing popped up.
Yeah. Well, that other thing is a stereoscope. Was produced for a old fashioned
Viewmaster.
Basically, which Brenda's dad had one of those things, and they had a bunch of stuff. He actually had Viewmaster, those kind of pictures, stereoscopes I don't know if they called them cards or slides or what. He actually had that, and it showed Hitler and making the French sign the capitulation papers in World War II in the old railroad car. It was kind of interesting. I don't know where he got them.
Huh.
So anyway, this Charles Young was born in Kentucky, and he was also born into slavery, if I'm not mistaken. He might not have been because I don't have his actual birth date. But after the Civil War, he moved out west with his parents, or moved somewhere else. And he was a good student, and he learned to read and all the stuff he needed to do that. And he was a teacher. And somewhere along in there, he decided he wanted to go to West Point, which is pretty unusual. That was back then. That was a kind of a thing. You had to come from the right families and be with the right. That started when you were born, practically. At least that's not what I've always heard and read. And he did finally get it. He did real well on his exam. Of course, I'm sure there was resistance to letting him in. But in 1884, he got in. And then after that, he went on to some pretty distinguished service, actually. He held ranks of second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, major, and lieutenant colonel while he was active duty. He retired in 1917, just before we got into World War I. And then he was promoted to full colonel. And then on November 6, 1918, they called him back into active duty because that's when we went into Germany, or went into France rather, in World War I. And they called him back up in the Ohio National Guard. And in doing so, I thought they gave him another promotion. I don't have that in here, but they made him a full bird colonel or major. They moved him, full bird colonel. He was a lieutenant colonel, and he moved on up to the ranks. I don't think he was never a general, but just the fact that he got to that point was pretty awesome. And during his military career, he had postings in Nebraska, Utah, Virginia, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, California, Wyoming, Texas, and Illinois. And he saw service in Haiti, the Philippines, Liberia, and Mexico. So he fought in just about everything but World War I. And he probably just barely missed it, to be honest. I'm not sure why they got him as a recruiter as opposed to, or not a recruiter, but I guess he was supporting. I mean, he was over here as a support person at, they don't say what base, but National Guard base.
So was he a Buffalo soldier?
Yeah, he was considered a Buffalo soldier because he was in the 18th, or he was in the 4th, or he was in one of the infantry units, and I thought I had that cut. I must have missed that when I cut and pasted here. But he was, and he was I thought he was a Medal of Honor winner, but maybe he wasn't. Anyway.
So I know three of them won the Medal of Honor during the Apache conflicts.
Yeah, and one of those was
one of them ended up in Nebraska at Camp Robinson, where they killed Crazy Horse at Fort Robinson.
And I thought I had some information.
He got into all kind of trouble when he got up there. But
well, I thought I had that because I read about that this morning, but I don't think it might have been him. I read that this morning. I was reading about who went where. Hang on a minute. Let me see if I've got that.
So there were three Buffalo soldiers and an Apache scout that won the Medal of Honor during the Apache Wars.
Yeah, I didn't know they ever gave them out to Native scouts.
Yeah, they gave it to one of Crook's scouts, which is pretty darn cool.
I got a bug flying around here, and he keeps crawling on my hand. I can't catch him.
Our bugs are all like huddled up in their little blankets
around their little campfires.
They're not out and about anymore.
They take matchsticks and chop them up into kindling and leave the big chunks for nighttime back up the fire.
So John says that gentleman was at Russell for 2 years.
Okay. Well, I was thinking I swear I read that and I've cut and pasted stuff and I've missed it because I thought that I had read that too. So that's what happens when you get in too big a hurry and you don't pay attention. And I'm going to quit looking for it because I'm not finding it anyway. So I must have moved on. So let's move on to. Now, like I said, this is from a stereoscope, so it'd look a lot better if we had that kind of a viewmaster for big slides. But it's it's one of the U.S. Cavalry regiments, and it can only be the 9th or the 10th. Now, these units still exist within the military. They're not all black, from what I read, and they do different things. But they were in the Air Cavalry. They were a part of that transition in Vietnam, and technically they weren't cavalry anymore like these guys were, but they still kind of retained that. And I don't know, was there cavalry even after World War II, or did they disband that until they created like the Air Cav?
It was all mechanized by then.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I didn't even know if they still had the unit.
There were a lot of cavalry troops that were mechanized. They weren't necessarily air cav. They were just mechanized cavalry.
Okay.
But that's the 9th, and I think that's during when they were hunting Victorio in West Texas.
Yeah, it could be.
There's a really good movie called The Buffalo Soldiers.
Yeah, and it's got Danny Glover in it, doesn't it?
Danny Glover's like the head he's kind of the head man for that unit. He's the senior NCO for that particular unit. It's a pretty good movie. It shows how Apaches hunted people pretty well.
Yeah, they were pretty good at it too.
Yeah.
And I just found some interesting photographs, and that one almost looks like, I guess that's a recruiting card actually. And this photographer thing here, I almost didn't put this in because it kind of made me mad, but this just shows you where we were at this point in time. And this is on the back of a photo. It could very well be this card right here because they didn't show the front, so I'm not sure. This was mixed in with a bunch of these kind of photographs, and it says, you can read what it says there. Some of the coons that are in camp at Keogh, and it was taken Saturday morning, December 14th, 1890. And I just, I can't really imagine what it would be felt like to still being referred to as,
yeah,
those kind of words. I mean, you and I both grew up hearing that a lot, but I mean, well, I did anyway. I don't know if you did, but you probably did too, or at least some of the time you grew up. But I saw that on there and I thought, wow, that's, of course, back then, I guess it would have hurt, I think disrespectful to a black soldier for damn sure, but probably looked at by most of the white people as just nothing. I mean, they don't even glance. But anyway, this is a statue that went up not too long ago, and I did have this one up. This historical marker. This is at Fort Bliss, I think, which was another one of their stations at some point. I might have.
Yeah, that's when they were down there when they were hunting Victorio.
Yeah,
that was the 9th.
So anyway, and that of course the guys that you see sitting there are part of a motorcycle group.
And I think the 10th was stationed at that time further west.
And here's just a drawing I thought was really cool, a painting. I don't know this guy's. Well, maybe I do. Stivers. There's a couple of other guys that do Civil War paintings and he's really good. I mean, this guy looks like he is too. That other guy used to sell some of his stuff around here, I think in Gatlinburg, but I don't know if he's still doing that or not. Anyway, and here's a couple more. In fact, right here's Fort. Oh, this is Corporal John Ross. He was another famous Buffalo soldier. This one's the one at Fort Bliss, so that one was somewhere else, I guess. That big one. Yeah, I thought pretty cool. They made it to a U.S. stamp when we had 29-cent stamps. I don't know if those are still out there or not. I bet somebody out there's got a page of them in their little book that way. So, as you can well imagine, all the topics I've talked about today have books, and I just picked out 3. And basically, they're the first 3 that popped up. You can find many more. I highly recommend you, if you're interested at all, you look for one and pick it up. But this one probably isn't available anymore, but The Life and Legend of George McJunkin, Black Cowboy. Yeah, that thought. Okay, Folsom, a guy named Folsom wrote the book, Mark. Franklin Folsom, my great. You know how many great granddaddy made that point. But, and then this is one, here's one about Mary Fields. I don't think there's as many about her, or this could be the only one about George McJunkin. I'm sure he's mentioned in some other books, but this may be the only one with his name on it. Now, but then over here we got a Black Valor, the Buffalo soldiers story, the Medal of Honor winners, at least from 1870 through 1898. And, I looked through the list of black soldiers that are still part of these groups, the 9th, the 10th. I mean, they still have a proud heritage, and it sometimes, comes out in their ceremonies and things. And so they do uphold this kind of an image. And I've seen some mounted troops riding in parades that have Buffalo Soldier, but and they carry military flags, but I don't know if they're active duty or if they're not even related, not even in the military. I'm not sure how that works, but there's actually quite a few Medal of Honor winners. I had that list pulled up, and I don't think I've got it now. Anyway, that's the end of that part of the slide. I did want to talk about one more thing, just for a few minutes at least, after I turn this off. And you guys, I gotta let the bulb cool. So let me hang on just a minute. There, I got the fan running on the bulb. I don't want it to pop the bulb, but I turned that part off.
From your slideshow?
Yeah, from my slideshow. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Your dad had one of them cameras that pop bulbs fairly often if you weren't careful with it. And the crazy thing about those bulbs is they're expensive.
I almost could think of the
Argus. It's an Argus.
Yep.
I saw one of those for sale in one of Jennifer's sales not long ago. It looked just like it.
Dad had all them slides.
Hey, Space Mountain Dave Cantrell, just like me. I've got a few of mine converted over to digital now.
We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of slides that I need to get converted.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff.
It's probably cost prohibitive.
That's why I'm doing it myself. If you get hold of them, I'll let you. I'll either come out there and help you do it, or we'll use my slide thing. And
There's, thousands probably actually.
yeah,
But
probably so. I got quite a few myself.
there's a lot of photos of Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
The university, right there at the university.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
You're not at the University of Way.
I had him. I had him a bumper sticker I found one time that said, "I'm a successful graduate of the University of Southeast Asia." You didn't talk about the 10th going to San Juan.
Well,
they were with Teddy Roosevelt and Blackjack Pershing.
Well, I wasn't finished. That's why, and that's where I screwed up because I meant to do that. The 10th did go to
That's
San
why
Juan.
Blackjack Pershing was Blackjack.
That's right. But because he took them into Mexico after Pancho Villa, right?
Yeah, and they went, and then he went to San Juan.
Okay, well that too.
He went
and
to
then he
Cuba,
went to
Cuba with Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, and then he was in charge of everybody when he got to Europe by that point, of the American soldiers anyway. And there were quite several groups of black soldiers there. I mean, the military was still segregated whether they rode horses or not at that point. And there's a couple of really good movies out there about that too, about World War I service and the black soldiers that took part. One of them is something like None of Them Will Survive, or there'll be no. You know what I'm talking about? Huh?
He loved his boys. When he went to Cuba with the 10th, well, he'd fought with the 10th for years, and he thought they were the finest troops he'd ever, commanded. And
that was something else I meant to say a while ago. And like in the Civil War, a lot of people, North and South, because of the beliefs of that day, thought that the first thing any former slaves or black soldiers would do was run from a fight, and they learned real quick that wasn't the case. Yeah. Especially with slaves, because they knew what they were fighting for, and I would have made me fight like hell too. So they had a lot of really fought some really hellacious battles in the Civil War. I can't imagine what it was like for them to march down the beach at Charleston or Fort Monroe, just outside of Charleston Harbor, and just get blown to hell and back and just keep going. The movie Glory depicted that well, and I've read a little bit about it. And it sounds to me like it was pretty much just like the movie, or the movie copied it. Well, you got a moose out there?
No. Lots of movement.
Thought maybe you heard a moose call.
They're coming through the wire right now.
But yeah, I meant to mention that, so I'm glad you reminded me of that. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about, was their service and saying. And again, I swear I thought I put that in there, so I've read it, thought about it, and then forgot to put it in there. Especially the San Juan Hill part.
John and Dave were talking about go Navy.
Or go Air Force. Wait a minute. No. Navy wins, USA retains the commander.
If the Navy wins, the Air Force keeps.
Yeah, the Air Force had a pretty decent team this year, which you don't usually hear much about them. You don't hear much about Army or Navy either, as a rule. But the last few years, Navy had been good, and the Army hadn't been that bad. And this year, Air Force has had a pretty good season.
We hear a lot about the Air Force because we got to play them every year. So,
oh well, they're close by too.
Yeah.
John, are you watching that game today? I can't remember. I'm going to watch it. I usually watch it and go Army in honor of my dad, but the I don't know when it comes on. I haven't looked it up yet to see when it comes on, and I can't remember if the Pokes are. I don't know if they made it. I don't think they made it to their playoffs this year, did they?
I doubt it.
I can't remember. They might have been playing forward slot in the playoffs, but actually that started last week. I know Idaho.
We were going to some kind of bowl, consolation bowl or toilet bowl or something, but it wasn't. We were playing the University of Toledo, I think, or somebody like that. And it's like, oh,
the Zips.
The what?
The University of Toledo's mascot or nickname is called. They're called the Zips. Z-I-P-S.
Cool.
The Zips, and I looked that up, and that is literally.
You had that on your show about mascots, as I recall.
Oh yeah, I did. That's when I looked it up.
They were like the town had made zippers or something.
Yeah,
weird.
Yep. And there's another one up there, I believe.
That's who the Cowboys are playing this year. If they have, maybe they already did. I don't know.
Where is that, John? Is that Philadelphia? It's somewhere there on the East Coast, and it's neutral, I think. I believe you're talking about the Army-Navy game.
That's one I've always wanted to go to.
I don't know.
That's got to be a good time.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a good time. I actually kind of liked it. The last couple of years, I've watched them march in and everything. That's a really big deal when they start introducing all the troops
war memorials at Laramie. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they called it that.
I thought we were still talking Army Navy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, they used to play at Veterans Field, I think they called it, or something similar to that. And I believe that was in Philly, but I believe they moved it now. That stadium may have gotten knocked down, or the original one anyway. John, do you know? Or Dave?
Somebody said Boston.
Tina said Boston. Well, that's possible. It's in Foxborough this year where the Patriots play. Well, hell, reckon why that is. I'll have to look it up. Tina, you know when it starts? I'm going to have to take a nap. I know that. Oh, it's after 12 already. Jiminy Christmas. No wonder I'm hurting. And I am hurting. The vet. Okay. That makes sense, John. That's what I'm thinking.
And we haven't even talked about the fact that the greatest sporting event in the world just started last night.
I know. Well, I was hoping we'd get to that, but it's kind of late. But yes, it did. And there's already been a big shift in things because they're going to be moving they moved the nuts. And I don't know. Still don't understand this, but I guess it's just all about numbering things. But they canceled the first night. If you're not, I'm sure you all know. I mentioned it the other night. There was a shooting at the UNLV, and that caused everything pretty much to shut down. And either out of concerns for security or sympathy for the parents or the the surviving family members, they shut down they didn't do the rodeo Thursday night. Thursday night was supposed to be first night of 10 for the National Finals Rodeo, which is a big deal for cowboys or, rodeo cowboys. And a big deal for somebody like me. It's been sitting and watching it from afar all my life. It is a pretty big deal, and so they've moved it. They're going to make it up by playing by playing round one next Wednesday morning, and then the guys have to go home, go to their hotel, take a nap or get a massage, depending on what
right again,
and then come back and do it again. Yeah, that's gonna be rough on some of them, and so that's going on. And I haven't even finished watching last night's. In fact, when I get through here, I'm gonna start all over again and try to watch it, and see how things went. But I was sitting here trying to work on the show, and I had it on over my shoulder, and I was trying not to do this all the time. And that's probably why I'm screwed up on so many slides. But yeah, John, it is or was called Gillette Stadium. I can't remember if they changed the name of that or not. I was thinking they did something different up there. I'm surprised they don't call it Brady Stadium or whatever that coach's name is. So anyway, yeah, so that's happening this week. Of course, it's another big deal. Huh? Oh, and they did finish one part. For the first time ever, they had the National Finals Breakaway Championship there in Las Vegas at the same time, or at least listed it as part of the NFR, even though it was in 2 days by itself. It's still considered part of the NFR, so they gave away a fair bit of money for that for the ladies. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And I saw the young lady that won, but I can't remember her name.
Well, it's Haven Maggid's wife.
Oh, is that who it is?
I think she was a Beausoleil.
Maybe that's
from Fort Peck, Montana, and she's from Louisiana, I think. So
yeah, that won't make any long trips for the holidays.
You mix a Cajun with a
Montanan.
Well, I think he's a Lakota man.
Oh, okay.
He's from Fort Peck Indian Reservation up there. I guess he could be a Grovon. I don't know, but anyway, their youngins will be strong people.
Proud heritage. She better.
They both. Is he a calf roper or team roper?
Calf roper. He might have done some team roping, but he's never been at the NFR for it. Hey, Kelly, welcome in. The Mickey Bunch is here. But yeah, I didn't realize I'd forgotten. I saw his wife. She's been with him several times on different things, but I don't remember to put 2 and 2 together on that unless it's somebody I really knew. And
but yeah, she won the breakaway.
So cool. John, do what?
I said she won that breakaway, which was cool.
Yeah, I don't remember what her time was. Total, it was pretty low though. And there was a couple gals had really good times right towards the end, and then missed the calf on the second round or the fourth round, or miss one calf, and it just it destroys you in something like that. You're just not going to win. I mean, I think they did.
I was telling Caitlin last night, we were watching the tie down roping, the calf roping, and those guys come out of the box and they swing 3 or 4 times and catch their calf, and then slide down the rope and tie it up. And I'm like, golly, those gals that are breakaway ropers, they catch their calf like in the first swing.
Yeah, they don't waste.
They are like, and I'm like, if the men could start doing that, man, could they shorten their time?
Yeah. And there's some of those guys getting hit.
It was cool last night because based on, along with the subject you were talking to today, John Douch won the calf roping.
Oh, good for him. I'm glad to see that.
So a black cowboy.
Yeah.
I can't remember what.
Fred Whitson dominated that class, or not for years. He was one of the top ropers too in that. And he's black.
But John Douch and then Corey Solomon, he was still wearing his green shirt and green boots and green. I love seeing him run. It's like, oh my God, it's like Ireland's coming at you.
And he swings a green roper. He did. Pretty cool.
But John Douch like 7-7, I think, last night.
Well, he's fast if he does everything right. Joe Beaver's worked with him for years, and I kind of taken him on as almost like his son in a way, I think, and he's good.
I told Caitlin, I'm like, you watch, Joe Beaver's going to say Kiff.
And I've been watching this week.
And one time he actually said calf.
Oh, that must have been a mistake.
And Caitlin was like, well, you're wrong. He said calf like everybody else says calf. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. And it like the next time it was a kiff.
Well, during the tie down breakaway stuff that I saw, I didn't see the whole thing, but what I did get to see was some interviews and things after the fact, and almost all of those gals said Kiff. I don't know if they're all from Oklahoma or what, but
Texas or Oklahoma or what? Yeah.
I told Brenda, I said, "Oh no!" I said, "Listen, it's what Mark said. They call them Kivs instead of calves." I don't know what, and they were saying it so slow enough or clear enough that you could really understand it, and that's what they were saying.
That's what my buddy Kevin Spence, that's been rodeo his whole life, he'd never picked up on that fact, and I said, "You watch when they say it," and he's like, "Kyle," he gives me a hard time now. Darn it! Every time I hear it.
Well, you made me. I mean, I've been watching for years now. I didn't pay any attention to it until you started telling me about it, and then I started catching it.
And it's Joe mostly.
Yeah, but now there's a lot more people.
They hang out with him. They all say it that way. Kiff.
Yeah, a kiff. He's got a good kiff tonight. They did 3-2 on him last night. Oh, me. Well, guys, it's about that time. Every Saturday morning. Oh, I was going to read a short poem. I got one more thing here before we go.
Poem.
What?
Nothing.
Phil came back from his trip. Mark, you missed it. Phil was on the show the other night.
Did he write a poem?
No, but he brought me some books of poetry. He went to some library book sale, and he brought me back not one, but 6 or so books of Western stories and poems. This one's by Baxter Black. This one's by a guy I never heard of.
Read the Buckskin Mare.
The Buckskin Mare. Well, I don't know that that's in here.
It ain't gonna be. It's a whole book by itself.
Oh well, now if it's a whole book, no. But if it's like a short story, then yeah.
No, it's a whole book by itself.
Well, I don't have that then.
You're not going to have that one. And
This is not really
you don't have
poetry.
time to read the Buckskin Mare anyway.
No, I know. Well, okay. If you say it's a story by itself. No, this has got more. This is more of a story. I think there's some poems scattered about in it, but I got to read it more to see. But I didn't know I guess I didn't know he did a book like this. So anyway, there's one, and then I got one called. Well, that's the other side of the cowboy, and I'm not sure where this one came from. This is one we'd probably have to discuss offline. And it's because, well, I mean, let's put it this way, it's more of a religious nature. It's almost like a track. And he brought me this cowboy book, The End of the Trail. And I marked something here. Let me see who I marked. Oh, that's Nate Love, who was also black and born a slave.
Yep.
And cowboyed. And then he brought me this one about the rodeo. I've flipped through these, but I can't tell you anything about this one. It is an anthropologist. Wow, that's hard to read. It's blue and you can't see it. An anthropologist looks at the wild and the tame. So this is going to be some kind of academic's view of rodeo.
See you, John.
See you, John. Say hi to Dad. Anyway, Phil brought me back some books. So bless his heart. He's donating to the library. So we can pack it up and move in here in a few months. So anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to let everybody go. Carol, are you still, I assume you're still out and about, so you're not able to see, but thanks for, listening to us. And everybody else, thank you for being here. Have a great Saturday. If you don't watch football,
go watch the rodeo.
Yeah, watch the rodeo for sure. It's on tonight at 8:30 Eastern, 6:30 Mountain Time. See how I did that conversion? So don't tell us how you get to see it before we do. So don't tell us how it ends.
No,
okay?
I don't.
Well, you see it at 6:30. We don't see it till 8:30. Doesn't that mean you see it first?
Yeah, I see it first.
I thought of that this morning. I said, if you say it like that, it sounds like he sees.
My wife just said, "Is he being serious?"
No.
Good.
That's
a little worried.
That's
there.
Good. She was worried about you.
Sorry about that, Shauna. I thought about that earlier today. I thought, well, if you say it,
well, you get to see it at 4:00 Pacific time.
Yeah. I mean, and we don't get to see it till 8, or 7 or whatever. Juggle that out.
All right.
Anyway, see you guys. Thank you, Mark. See you again next week.
Later on. Laters.
Laters, Gators.